Hello, and welcome to a Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness video, where today we're going to be completing the game with the Tyranitar line. And while Tyranitar is known as a very strong Pokemon, especially competitively, but because we're doing the full line, we're going to start with a Larvitar, which is quite bad, and we can see this in its stats. It has 50 HP, 64 attack, 50 defense, 45 special attack, 50 special defense, and 41 speed, and gets access to mostly normal and rock type moves. That is until it evolves into Tyranitar at level 55, where it gets that entire list of TMs it can learn, plus a few more tutor moves, which I've decided to separate because Tyranitar is such a different beast compared to Larvitar and Pupitar, and so we won't actually be able to use those TMs until way later in the game. But for now, let's go ahead and get right into it. Our Larvitar in particular has a naive nature, raising its speed but lowering its special defense, which isn't great because I'm 4 times weak to both water and grass, but the speed will definitely help considering just how slow I am. It gets the Guts ability, which raises my attack if I'm poisoned, paralyzed, or burned, and according to Bulbapedia, it gets Bite, Leer, and Sandstorm by level 10. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. And the first thing I decide to do is teach Mimic, which I'm not going to use too often, but it might prove useful in the early game. And I've decided to go ahead and skip the old man fight and move right along to the fight against the Power Rangers. This time I've chosen Brown because I have Bite that's super effective against Baltoy. Anyway, time to commence the rambling. If you are enjoying this video so far, consider liking, and if you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. I'm going to be doing duos for the rest of the month, so if you have any suggestions like that, put them down below. Anyway, we're just about to finish off the Power Rangers and move on to level 22 when I finally get the move Rock Slide, which I teach over Sandstorm, and I go into the battle against Larvitar. She leads with a Love Disc and a Beautifly, and that water gun just did over half my health. I'm able to take down the Beautifly in a single hit, but it really doesn't matter because I'm outsped and taken down in a single hit. Well, I decide to go to Mount Battle to do a little bit of training, and in the process find another Larvitar. Goodbye, other Larvitar. And at level 29, I learn the move Thrash, and then at level 30, Larvitar evolves into Pupitar, which is definitely a much needed upgrade, because Larvitar was really struggling against many fights. So, it has 70 HP, 84 attack, 70 defense, 65 special attack, 70 special defense, and 51 speed, and now doesn't have the Guts ability anymore. It is instead replaced with Shed Skin, which has a chance every turn to get rid of any status condition you have, which is certainly fairly useful, but I think Guts is definitely a better ability overall. But we get back into the battle against Larvitar. I use Rock Slide, which still doesn't take down the Love Disc in a single hit, but it flinches it so it's not able to attack me. I take down the Love Disc. Rosalia survives on just a little bit of HP, but also flinches. I miss Rock Slide on Delcatty, but it doesn't really do that much damage to me. Another Rock Slide nearly takes it down, and I finish it off with a Thrash. Okay, well that was a pretty easy Larvitar once I evolved. And of course I run into the obligatory Mirror Bee. How are you doing, Mirror Bee? Well, as always, it's good to see ya. Anyway, at the Real Gam Tower, I pick up my 2 favorite TMs, Hidden Power and Protect, and I'm going to teach Hidden Power right away, which happens to be Hidden Power Psychic, which isn't the best Hidden Power, but it does hit the fighting types that will eventually hit Tyranitar really hard, so it's not too bad. I go into the battle against Snaddle. He leads with a Quagsire and a Lantern. I decide to go for Bite on the first turn, hoping for a flinch on Quagsire, but actually just misses a Rock Tomb, so I'm able to take it down with ease. However, the Lantern is doing quite a lot of damage with Water Gun, and I don't one-shot the Lunatone, and I go down pretty quickly on my first attempt. I decide to teach Body Slam, and then, for some reason during my training, I decided not to get Crunch. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, we go into the battle against Snaddle once again. I use Rock Slide on the first turn to do a bit of damage to Quagsire and the Lantern. I finish off the Lantern with another one, then out comes Lunatone. And luckily I get a couple flinches on the Quagsire as well, so it's not able to attack me with a Rock Tomb until now. And with the crunch damage, I'm able to take down the Lunatone in a single hit. Castform actually survives on a Sliver from Body Slam, so I decide to go for Rock Slide, but it misses the Castform anyway, which isn't great. However, Quagsire is in range to be taken down by one more Rock Slide now, and he's down to his final Pokemon, which is Matang, which should go down to just a couple crunches. Metal Claw doesn't take me down, and I finish it off and beat Snaddle on the 4th attempt, so not too bad. Before the next fight, I decide to teach Protect, and we go into the battle against Gonzap. He leads with an Electrode and a Nuzleaf. I go for Protect on the first turn because Nuzleaf always goes for Fake Out on the first turn. Electrode's going for Sonic Boom. I go for Rock Slide, which doesn't take down either of them. It hits me with a pretty weak Feint attack. Another Sonic Boom, doing a little bit of damage. I take them both down with Rock Slide. And then out comes Vileplume and Whiscash. Now both of these Pokemon are very dangerous because Vileplume has Giga Drain and Whiscash has Water Pulse, both doing 4 times damage to me. Luckily a Sleep Powder misses. I heal up a little bit by protecting. I go for Body Slam to finish off the Vileplume, and then out comes his final Pokemon, which is Skarmory. Water Pulse hits doing half my health. I get confused. I go for Body Slam, taking the Whiscash down pretty low, and for some reason it decides to go for Rock Tomb instead of taking me down. So I'm able to survive on just a little bit of health and take down the Whiscash, but I don't have enough health to take down the Skarmory and lose the first attempt. Okay, well, it's pretty obvious what I need to do. I just need to take on the Vileplume and the Whiscash one-on-one. So I take down the Electrode on the second turn, go for Body Slam into the Vileplume, which doesn't quite take it down. It hits me with a Sleep Powder, and I'm able to call and wake myself up, but it does hit me with Giga Drain, doing quite a bit of damage to me and healing up most of its health. Go for another Protect just to heal myself up a little bit before taking down the Vileplume with another Body Slam, and then out comes the Whiscash once again, and I go for Protect to heal up some before going for Crunch to take it down to about half health, which means that it's guaranteed 2-shot. Hits me with a Rock Tomb, lowering my speed, but that doesn't really matter. Go for another Protect, because I really don't want to be taken down by the Skarmory getting a critical hit or something like that. So I am playing extra cautiously, but I think it's going to pay off in the long run, because if I did lose this fight, I'd have to do it all over again anyway. I use Rock Slide, which takes down the Nuzleaf and does quite a bit of damage to the Skarmory. Another Rock Slide takes it down very low, and it doesn't get a crit, so I'm able to finish off with a Body Slam. Okay, well that was only a couple attempts, not too bad. And at level 55, Pupitar evolves into Tyranitar, which is going to be a huge improvement. And I'm guessing this is going to tear through the rest of the game with relative ease. And that's because it has 100 HP, 134 attack, 110 defense, 95 special attack, 100 special defense, and 61 speed. So it's definitely going to tear through the last bit of the game. But on top of that, it now has the new ability Sandstream, which sets up a sandstorm every time I switch in, and it also gains the dark typing, losing the ground typing. But I'm no longer 4 times weak to water and grass, I'm now just 4 times weak to fighting, which is probably fine. Anyway, with that, we pick up the Earthquake TM and go ahead and teach it over Crunch, and we move on to the battle against Gorgon. He leads with a Lairon and a Celio, and I go for Rock Slide because it's super effective against Celio to take it down in a single hit. Out comes Slowking, and I go for Earthquake, which takes down the Lairon, and takes down the Slowking. Okay, well, out comes Ursaring and his first Shadow Pokemon, Primeape. I go for Earthquake once again, which takes them both down, unsurprisingly. And then all that's left is a Shadow Hypno, which gets chipped by my Sandstorm and goes down to Earthquake. Okay, well, going into the last area of the game, while my time's not all that great because of how slow Larvitar and Pupitar were, I have a feeling that Tyranitar is just going to fly through this last area. So I run into another Pupitar, which goes down, goodbye other Pupitar, and I go into the battle against Lavrina. She leads with a Gardevoir and a Gorbis. I go for Earthquake, which takes down both. And then out comes Roselia and Shadow Farfetch'd, which both of these Pokemon are very annoying, especially if they're able to set up their status moves on you. So I go for Rock Slide, which takes down the Roselia in a single hit, and takes down the Farfetch'd in a single hit. All that's left is the Shadow Altaria, which goes down to a single Rock Slide. So pretty easy first attempt. At the top of the mountain, I run into Snaddle once again. He leads with a Matang and a Quagsire this time. I go for Earthquake, taking them both down in a single hit. And then out comes Scizor and Solrock, his first Shadow Pokemon. And I don't really have anything to take down Solrock in a single turn, so I go for Rock Slide, which does take them both down to half. But Solrock sets up Shadow Sky, so now I won't be healing anymore. Scizor goes down and Solrock goes down to another Rock Slide, and then out comes Castform and Starmie, his second Shadow Pokemon. And all it takes is one more Earthquake to take them both down. So with that, Snaddle's pretty easy. Moving on to Ardos, he leads with a Shadow Swallow and an Alakazam, so I go for Rock Slide on the first turn to take them both down. And then out comes his next two Pokemon, Kingdra and Heracross. I go for Rock Slide, hoping to take them down in a single hit, but I actually miss both of them, and because of that, I get my speed dropped by Heracross. And I go for Rock Slide once again, this time actually hitting both. Not enough to take either of them down, but one more should do the trick. But I decide to play it safe and go with Earthquake instead because it's 100% accurate. Mega Horn hits, getting a crit and taking me down in a single hit. Okay, well that's just a little bit unfortunate. Going back into the battle once again, I go for Rock Slide, but it actually misses Swallow, so it's able to get off a Shadow Half. And because of this, I'm actually able to take down the Kingdra in a single Rock Slide if it hits. I take down Swallow, and Kingdra goes down as well, which brings out his Shadow Electabuzz and Heracross. So this time I'm actually going to use Earthquake instead because I know it'll take down the Electabuzz, and it's not worth risking misses on Heracross, which it actually would have two-shot Heracross anyway, so I may as well have just gone for Earthquake in the first place. But that's a bit of hindsight. Out comes the Shadow Snorlax. I go for Earthquake once again, finishing off the Heracross with a crit, and Snorlax nearly goes down in a single hit, misses its Shadow End, and goes down to one last Earthquake. Okay, well, pretty easy overall. Once again to Gorgon, he leads with a Slowking and an Ursaring this time. Go for Body Slam to take down the Slowking in a single hit. And then out comes Aggron. I go for Earthquake to take them both down. And then out comes the Shadow Poliwrath and Walrein. And the Shadow Poliwrath always sets up Shadow Sky on the first turn, but it should just go down to a single Earthquake anyway. But they actually both survive on just a little bit of health. So Shadow Sky goes up. I get hit by a Waterfall, not really doing that much damage. Earthquake takes down the Walrein and the Poliwrath, and then all that's left is a Shadow Mr. Mime that is definitely slower than me and goes down to a single Earthquake. Okay, well that was a pretty easy Gorgon as well. Before the next fight, I decide to teach Ice Beam, and I go into the fight against Eldis. He leads with a Manectric and a Ninjask. I go for Earthquake immediately to take down the Manectric. And then out comes Salamence, and this is the reason I taught Ice Beam in the first place, was just so I could take it down with relative ease. Of course I'm going to Protect to stall out the Silver Winds from Ninjask because I don't want it to get too much stronger, but it's all in vain because it gets an Omni boost anyway. I use Ice Beam to take down the Salamence in a single hit. Out comes Flygon, and another Protect to stall out another one. And now the Ninjask only has one left. Go for Ice Beam to take down the Flygon, which it goes down in a single hit. And then out comes Shadow Marowak. Now this thing is always a bit of a threat because it does a ton of damage, but I think I'm strong enough to take it down in a single hit, which I am. And then out comes his final Pokemon, which is a Shadow Lapras, which should just go down to a Rock Slide. And it actually gets a crit, so I'm not sure if that would have one-shot. And all that's left is the Ninjask, which goes down to an Ice Beam. So that was a pretty easy Eldis. Of course, before you can get to the final boss, you have to go past the big box legendary, Shalowoogia. It hits me with a Shadow Storm. I hit it with Rock Slide, nearly taking it out. Go for Protect here just to heal up a little bit before the final fight. But unfortunately it does hit me with one last Shadow Storm before I leave. But it goes down to Ice Beam, and we move on to the final battle against Gravel. He leads with a Shadow Rhydon and a Shadow Moltres, and I go for Protect just to heal up some before I get this battle actually started. Go for Rock Slide, which gets a crit on Rhydon, doing quite a bit of damage, but takes down Moltres in a single hit. Out comes Executor. Rhydon hits Shadow End, doing actually not too much damage at all. I go for Protect once again, and then I go for Earthquake to take down the Rhydon and do a little bit of damage to the Executor. Actually, not as much as I thought it might do. Out comes Tauros, which lowers my attack, unfortunately. But it gets hit by a little bit of Sandstorm. Go for Ice Beam to take down the Tauros, but it actually survives on just a little bit of health, and it's able to set up Shadow Sky. So now I won't be healing anymore. Go for Protect to stall it out just a little bit though. And now I have to decide whether or not I want the Executor or the Tauros. But maybe I can take down both. I go with Rock Slide, which only takes down the Tauros. Leaves the Executor alive. It gets flinched though. I go for Protect to stall out another turn of the Fruity Pebbles. And then I go for Rock Slide, which hopefully one-shots Articuno, which it does. Executor goes down, and then all that's left is Zapdos, which really doesn't pose a threat to me because either a Rock Slide or an Ice Beam will do the trick, and Zapdos goes down, giving us a first try Greavil. So that's pretty nice. Anyway, how well did Tyranitar do? Well, it beat the game at a time of 10 hours, 12 minutes, and 4 seconds at level 69 and fainted 21 times throughout the game. Most of those being when it was still a Larvitar, and that's honestly the only real issue with this Pokemon line is that Larvitar is incredibly weak, and having 2 4x weaknesses doesn't help, so it ended up wasting quite a bit of time. And even though Pupitar shares the same typing as Larvitar, it's just a little more defensive, so it ends up being less of an issue overall. And of course, Tyranitar, as I suspected, absolutely destroyed the end of the game, only having one loss to one of the bosses because of a crit Megahorn, which just goes to show how good it is. However, it ends up in the A tier because of that really slow start. But if you're able to put in the effort of getting Larvitar up to Tyranitar, it is incredible. And I think it's mostly due to its stats and incredible move pool. It gets coverage for basically everything you need: Ice Beam, Flamethrower, and Thunderbolt. And via level up, it also gets the amazing move Rock Slide, which I think might be the best move in this game because of how well it deals with Greavil and his legendary birds. And it even gets Earthquake just for good measure to hit everything on the ground as well. So Tyranitar is amazing. You just have to get through Larvitar and Pupitar to get there though, which is really what brings it down to A. So anyway, if you did enjoy this video, consider liking and subscribing. If you have any Pokemon suggestions, please put them down below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!